Okay guys, BigSLICK here, and today we're tuning up a Project 1 solid-state stereo receiver Mark 1A. This is a 1970s model AM/FM receiver with a phono and auxiliary input. I could not find any service documentation on this unit, so I had to fly blind, but I think I figured it out pretty well and give you some information on it. I picked this up, it was thrown out for the trash, it was broken. First thing I noticed was on some quick testing was that there was two bad capacitors. Using an ESR meter, I found that this capacitor, a 220 mic at 35 volts, was leaking electrolyte fluid right there onto the board. This one was easy to spot. This cap, which was a 220 at 25, was easy to spot as having higher ESR than other similar capacitors that were in the unit. And both of those I diagnosed using one of my ESR meters, which I'll show you in a second here. Okay, the ESR meter that I use here is a Bob Parker design sold by Anatech blue ESR meter. It's nothing fancy. All it does is check in circuit the ESR of electrolytic capacitor. Very handy for troubleshooting any type of electronic where you feel the electrolytic capacitors may be the problem. So this came in very handy, and all I did was test each capacitor in circuit and find out which ones were defective. Here is a shot of the top of the receiver. I had it open to give you an idea what was going on there. The two I replaced were right here and right here. So that brought the receiver back to life, but it did have other issues. It needed aligned, and it also had bias and DC offset problems. So in order to check the DC offset, which I've already adjusted on this receiver, you will see on this board there are 4 trim pots in the amplifier section. Each one corresponds to the channel. So in other words, the channel over here is these pots, and the other channel over here, the output, are these 2 pots. Now on this receiver, the DC offset pots were this one and this one for each channel. I have some Fluke meters monitoring that right now, as you see. These should be as close to 0 as possible, and as you see on the meters here, I have this set on DC, and it's basically reading 0, which is exactly what you want. You test this by having no input on. So you want to put this on an auxiliary input that has nothing coming into it. You connect your speakers up as you would, and you simply connect the multimeters across the speaker terminals of each channel, as shown back there. Each one is across the channels as you see. And it's very simple. You should have 0. If it's not 0, you want to dial it in. And any receiver, it's obviously going to be different where the location of these pots are and that. But on this one, these were the offset pots. This, I just noticed this by trial and error. Adjust it, see what you get. If the DC offset doesn't change, you're adjusting the wrong thing. So you dial that in so that it's 0. And the reason you want no DC offset is this is DC that's riding on the speaker terminals, actually on the speaker lines, and that heats up your speakers and will ruin your speakers. So you want that to be 0. Okay, so how do you bias a solid state receiver like this? Well, different people have different opinions, and I'll show you how I do it. This is a well-regarded method, so it's not my own. what we're looking for is power consumption. So I have a amp meter hooked up to the this is basically a variable isolation transformer. It can monitor the amperage drawn, so in other words the wattage that this unit's pulling, and we're looking at idle current. So what I have here, you'll see that it's pretty low right now at idle. Now depending on how much output wattage the receiver or amplifier would have, you're going to get more wild swings on this. Right here on this unit, it's going to be a rather subtle difference. But what we'll do is, I've already determined through trial and error that the bias pots for each channel are here and here. So you use obviously your insulated screwdriver. We'll go on this channel, and what you're going to do is you're going to look at the power consumption as you tweak it. And as you see subtly, this is going up. Well, what I do is I adjust it right to where it's minimum but no longer moving downward. So I'll go until I just see it start to rise, back it off a hair, and you're good. And you'll do the same thing with the other channel. You'll go over, put your insulated screwdriver in there, go up, and start to adjust it. There you see it starting to rise, power consumption. Back it off to where it levels off and you get no more adjustment. Go again, see where, okay, it's starting to rise right there. So back it off, boom. There you go, you're biased. What you want is the idle current draw to not be pulling anything more than necessary, but to respond quickly to input. And by making it so that you take it to right where it's going to start consuming power with no signal input, you just back it off just a hair and you're golden. Other people may have other methods. That's perfectly fine, but this method's been used by technicians for 40, 50 years, however long solid state's been out, since the late 60s, early 70s, and with perfect success. So now what else did I have to do with this receiver? This receiver uses what they call fuse lamps, which are lamps that are shaped just like a regular old-fashioned fuse. It used 5 of them. And the dial right here uses 4 behind here, which was easily accessible. Obviously with the power off, there were 2 screws here and they were behind this assembly right here. In fact, you could see the terminals for them right here, here, and here. I think there may have been only 3 inside here. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there was 4. 4 in there, and then there's one over here in the AM FM tuning indicator, which that one doesn't light up until on this receiver until you switch into either FM or AM. So I installed, instead of just using the cheap old-fashioned fuse lamps that burn out very quickly, I installed LED versions of them, and I'll pull one out here to show you what those look like. Okay, this is a LED fuse lamp. As you see, it looks just like a regular old-fashioned fuse in terms of its size, but this is white LEDs. And these will probably last certainly the lifetime of this receiver, unless there was a defect in it. But, you know, in theory, they're meant to last a lifetime, and they're even, as far as I know, they even have a little lesser power consumption. So you're better off using these. The price is almost the same these days. You can get these at Parts Express or eBay, wherever you prefer. And these are always 8 volt, and the ratings can be anywhere from 200 to 300 milliamps, but I don't actually know what these LED conversions pull. I think, like I say, I think they pull even less current than that, but the original ones were rated anywhere for the old-fashioned incandescent style were rated between 200 and 300 mils, depending on the exact model that you had. But these were very highly recommended. Upgrade, and I think I got 6 of them for about $12. So that was a cheap upgrade for this receiver. So then we had to do a alignment. Now on stuff like this, I don't think it's worth, you know, going crazy and putting a ton of effort into an alignment. So what you're basically doing is peaking coils, and some of this is trial and error. Some of it is, it's just you have to work it back and forth and do the best you can. These analog tuning dials are never going to track perfectly across the entire length unless you have an ultra high-end receiver, but this isn't that. It's a very good receiver though. It has excellent reception now, but you know, you're going to have some stations where they're a little off from where they are, but as long as you're in the ballpark and you're getting good sensitivity and selectivity, that's about the best you can do on something like this. So how do we do that? Well, that's going to differ on each receiver that you work on, but to give you an example, you're going to peak. First of all, don't do this unless you're having trouble, because you can easily screw this up if you've never done it before, and then you'll end up with no reception or even some defect. So you don't want to probe into this unless you have to. But on this tuning condenser, for example, on this, I figured out that to peak the AM, it was the first screw here and the third one. And for FM, it was the second and fourth. And also for the alignment on the FM in terms of where it was at on the dial, it was this adjustment in between here. So that set, so what we do is, there's a station here locally that's almost at 106. It's 105.9. So I'd set it at 106 here, and then adjust this right here until I'd hear the station. And then what you'd do is you would go to these other coils here using an insulated adjuster, and you would peak all these until you get maximum reception on it. And if you're not getting an adjustment, it's probably for AM, so make sure you have an idea where it was at whenever you start, and then go over and peak it on FM with the two, like for this example, again it was this one and this one. And so then a lot of times you have to check it at multiple points on the dial, so then you'd go back down, pick a station that's fairly weak towards the bottom of the dial, and repeat the process. Make sure you peak everything to get best clarity of audio, best sensitivity and selectivity, and then repeat again. Go up to the high end of the dial and do it again. And pretty much the same thing on FM. Go back to same thing on AM. Go to AM, and then you're going to adjust. On this example, it was this one and this one. I found that on this unit, this coil here was the rough alignment in terms of the AM on the dial. So what I did is I picked a station right in the middle roughly, and I peaked this until I roughly heard that station where I wanted in terms of the numerical dial, and then peaked accordingly. On these, usually red is AM, so that gave a clue here. This was red, 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 and often blue is FM, but it's not absolute. So if you notice that you're getting peaked with a blue, then obviously it's relevant. And that's how you adjust it. So in order to get good reception here, I have fluorescent lights that create a lot of reception interference, so I have to turn these off. But I'll turn these off and give you an idea how the selectivity in that is. It's pretty good. So turn the volume down a little bit. Put it on FM. We'll go down to the bottom of the dial. As you see, our meter, the meter actually had to be fixed too. It was sticking, so I pulled it open and cleaned it up, adjusted the little set screw on the needle pointer there, and it freed right up. So we'll see what we have here.
Yes, so that's the best part. So now you don't have to do all these separate.
Being one or more medications. More than one.
This is a very weak station, so to get any reception here is very good. And it's also in a concrete garage here where this workshop is. Very difficult to get much reception here at all.
Shopping saves berry picking extravaganza. Stop in today.
Didn't see it with his own two eyes for one of the greatest moments in Joe's athletic history.
More than one drug being taken.
Others charge 40%. The answer is simple. The client's the one that's hurt and should get most.
Sunday at Heinz Hall, experience.
I just got a quote for the repair. I don't have that kind of money.
Right when you begin to worry. Worry about nothing, pray about everything.
Now his team's coming over to celebrate their high school.
Your model Power GM is just right it out.
Right up, Baker. Just ask your buddy.
You fund these programs and services and go.
Everybody's approved.
Power Chevrolet, legendary names woven into the legacy of the golf capital of the world. They set the scene. Now it's time.
Okay, so as you see, very good selectivity and sensitivity on FM. And this is basically Y108, and it's right on 108. So we're getting excellent tracking on FM. AM has a bit more, a bit less accuracy on the tracking, but actually, considering how poor the AM reception is in my area, the AM performs well. So we'll flick it over on to AM, start at the end of the dial, and see what we get here today. Let me connect the antenna to AM here, which is right there.
Please support WZUM today at
'07. The season opener for the Pirates. What do you mean by that? Well, I mean, this is people in the panel who give him an A.
that you have walked with Jesus. Let's get sports. Here's Eric Hackman.
The teams are playoff bound, but the Penguins and Rangers have found it tough going lately, heading into their game.
Grant's absence, now they're playing well, and it's who needs him.
We're great people with good season.
The magnesium, I always say, is God's natural calming agent, right? Calms the brain, it relaxes the skull.
Shopping area. I mean, everything here in our facility.
Looking foolish in the end and going home with a fraction.
And that Matt can't be hit like that. Those
I'm definitely in the bandwagon. He should not be playing at the Masters. You know, I would love to see Tiger. Golf is better than Tiger is.
Okay, so on AM there was probably about 10 stations there that you could have listened to. That's about as good as it gets here, and where I'm at on AM reception, it's very, very poor here. So 10 stations is about average. So overall, I'd say that covers this unit. It turned out nice. Just other than what I've said, I did some cosmetic cleanup. Works well. Sounds good. FM is exceptional, and overall has an excellent quality of sound for a solid state receiver of this vintage. This unit has a monitor. It also has stereo mono, which works well. The muting, which mutes between FM stations when you're tuning, and the loudness control. So, I mean, it's pretty conventional design. Overall, very nice unit. Nice wood grain cabinet. So, highly recommended. So, maybe this gives you a little bit of a tutorial as to how, what it takes to give a basic tune-up and a basic repair to a unit like this. I mean, obviously, it takes more time than what I've shown, and it takes a degree of experience to do this, but you know, if you're interested and you want to learn about how to service things safely, you know, I would suggest that you look those things up, and if you're interested, this gives you an idea what you have to do. Thanks a lot. Bye.